in every scenario of my life, I don't want to call it that it's trauma that have built me, and that's why I'm in a flight or flight type of mode, because that's giving too much credit to trauma. And trauma, not only trauma, is giving credit to the people who have created the trauma. And I am the type of person who refused to give credit to that. I rather say, you did this, I'll be better, and I'll prove you wrong.
Knockin Doorz Down, your host, Jason LaChance, certified recovery coach, maybe a little certifiable, I don't know. Hey, it's 2024 and it's time to get things in gear, right? Well, I'm excited because I've got not only a guest, but a guest co-host on this episode. My guest, Darlene Bernaola Mahoney. Darlene opens up about so much in her life. I mean, not only growing up in the jungles of Peru, how she came to America. I mean, she slept in an airport bathroom her first night here, and she wasn't even 18 years old. Darlene opens up about so much of the trauma that she went through and experienced in life, how she's rebounded, handled it all, and persevered. And yeah, I mentioned a co-host. It's my man, a mentor, a friend, Mike Diamond. It's cool to have Mike on this episode. We have an amazing conversation, lots of insight, lots of stuff for you to think about. And if anything, it'll open up your mind to the fact that, like it did me, hey, I've got problems, but so does everybody else. And Darlene is a true example of knocking doors down in life. If this is your first time checking out Knockin Doorz Down on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up. How about you ring the bell? And if you got something out of the episode, leave a comment and share with someone else. And if you want, give a follow on social media. All the links are in the podcast description. It's time to get to my guest, Darlene Bernaola Mahoney, and special guest co-host, Mike Diamond. This is going to be a fun one, guys. Darlene Mahoney, thank you for joining me, and a guest co-host, not only a friend, a mentor, Mike Diamond. Man, we're going to get into it today, but thank you, Darlene. You look gorgeous as always. Mike, so do you.
I try to like get some lighting on my face, kind of fudge it up, you know. Well, I put fake my accent, right?
Yeah. What were you going to say, Darlene?
I said we need filters next time.
No, stop. You look gorgeous.
Life is a filter. Life is a filter, right?
Life is a filter. And speaking of, we're going to really dig into it. I mean, I'm just now getting to know you, and I already love you, Darlene. But I appreciate you coming on here and sharing some. I mean, boy, we're going to go all kinds of places. My curiosity as I'm getting to know you is I want to know little you. Because, you know, I already did the intro. I talked about you, your sister, appearing in Playboy and other stuff, but I don't really know you.
What do you want to know?
Let's start early.
You want to start?
Let's start early. Let's start back. Let's jump. I think it's important to jump back to childhood, especially as I'm starting to get to know you. I think it's going to help frame a lot of the stuff we'll talk about trauma-wise that has occurred through life. So take me, I don't know, little Darlene. What was life like? What were you like?
Little Darlene was always a big Darlene, believe it or not. I always had in a way, God, I don't know. I kind of think I was very different compared to everybody else. Life had taught me how to, unfortunately, instead of have a normal childhood, how I had to defend for myself and how I had to protect myself. So I was always a very tough cookie to crack. You know, like I just, unfortunately, it did follow me in life, but there's some habits that I kind of learned that before you get me, I'll get you, but not in a bad kind of way, is more in a defensive type of way. I went through a lot of abuse in my childhood, and the good thing about that, because I always find the benefit of everything negative, is that I was able to know what I didn't want for my daughter, because I do have a 22-year-old daughter. So those lessons kind of taught me the mistakes not to make on raising a child. I was brought up pretty much on my own since I was a child. My mom was one out of 16 kids. So I was And she was the youngest one and the only one divorced in the family. So obviously that wasn't looked up. It was looked down on back in the days, especially coming from my mother is from Peru, and the Latin community that's at that time wasn't looked good on. So her being extremely young when she had me, 15 years old, and not having a life experience, it really didn't leave her to be a mother that maybe she would potentially be able to be a good mother, but she had no idea how to raise a kid, so I don't blame her for that. She was extremely young. Took me a very long time to actually say that, but
it's hard
very
to
long
accept
time. Very long time to be able to say that. But at the same time, you know what? I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for me being able to stand up for myself. And she had family members that were really great, and some of them are assholes. I mean, there's no other way. And that's me actually being kind, saying just that. And they were with their own rights, obviously, because who wants to be raising somebody else's kids? I mean, I see both sides of I could be very understanding in both sides. At the same time, there's no need to abuse children when you could just say no.
Yeah.
Have your kid around or whatever it is. But I do have very interesting stories and how I stood up for myself. And in some way, somehow, they always get their way. They get their little payback here and there. Not from me, but, well, actually, it was from me. But I did find ways to kind of be able to move on from those experiences.
Sure. I want to extrapolate some. Go ahead, Mike.
You got it.
I was saying I want to extrapolate some stuff from that. So I'm hearing mom was around 16 years old when you're born. Obviously a baby having a baby,
Exactly.
I mean, I was 30 and I still was like, what the okay. Mike, you were what?
40.
He was
40.
To my 40s. And even then I was like, what am I doing?
Right. But
this is stupid.
So did you grow up then in Peru, or did you come to America? What was the situation with the family there? I kind of want to understand the dynamic. I mean, I'm assuming maybe Catholic family or something, I'm trying to get the whole overall picture here.
Well, my mother was married with a Italian American older man who went to Peru visit. Obviously, back in the day, it was very common to get married at 15 years old. Very smart to catch her at 15. And we were born in California. And then it was like a war between both of them, because her being young and immature, him being whatever he was, because I don't have a relationship or ever had a relationship with him, just maybe a couple of interactions. So it was constantly that it was extremely weird, because I don't remember anything of this, but I do know that her family would tell us there was him going and kidnapping us, and then my mom coming and kidnapping us to the United States. And then it was just this back and forth until probably 4 or 5 years old. And so pretty much she remarried, and she was young and was living in her life. So I don't remember my mom too much in my childhood. It was very, it was very weird. I just have very little memories of her in our childhood up until maybe I was 13 years old. And she was coming in and out into my life. But like I said, she was very young. So, it's one of those things that in maybe I'm not going to generalize that in Latin culture, but usually, they always have the grandma taking care of the kids or somebody. And my mom being the youngest one and having such a huge family was very easy to just put us in a position somebody would keep us or something like that. So I pretty much was brought up on my own. My mom did not believe at the time in education. It was like, oh, one day you'll get married, you don't need to have an education. So I literally didn't even have an elementary I never even finished elementary school. So everything that I learned was on my own. I learned how to read and write in Spanish by myself. I mean, it was pretty much my mom would pay for us to get past grades when I just never went to school. I could I could remember very few times that I actually did go to school. And then I just pretty much, I really have to say that I brought myself up, because it was just the only way. And when I was 15 years old, I was looking at all my cousins, and of course I have a bunch of them, out of so many uncles and aunts, and I was seeing everyone going to college and going to medical school and doing this, and I was like, God damn, I want to do that. Like, I want to go to school and I want to do the things everybody else is doing, and here I'm stuck in the middle of the jungle doing shit, hanging out for freaking trees and doing stuff like that, barefoot. So I'm like, I wanted more in life. And I remember that, literally I was on top of a mountain. I don't know how it says, like, pushing cows down to bring him to the barn. And I was sitting there and I was like, I just want more in life. And hearing everybody, how they had my cousins had their education and how they were doing, I just came up with the idea. I remember, and I didn't speak English at the time or learn how to write or read or anything. And I remember saying, you know what, I remember a conversation saying that when you are an American, you could go to the army and they give you a free education. And you could go to college. So I think I had just turned 15 years old, and I have finally, my mom was kind of around, and I did tell her that I wanted to go to the United States and go to the army. And, and she was like, yeah, and my mom gave me $300 to come here at 15 years old with the ticket. And I just came, and I remember at the airplane back then, you could smoke cigarettes. Right. So I was like, oh, fuck yes. I was like cigarettes, and I was smoking in the airplane, thinking like I'm all such an adult. Little did I know that reality was going to strike really hard when I came to the United States. So I remember coming to Florida, and I know I had a cousin, but my cousin had literally 5 roommates in a 1-bedroom apartment. Oh shit! And they were all guys. So he was so kind enough to let us stay there, and I had like little. And the apartment was divided between 4 places plus the bedroom. So I had like this little place, and I was like, oh, fuck it. I'm going to go to the army anyway, so I'm not going to stay here. Next thing I know, I go to the army office, and of course, I was not going to get there. You need parents' permission. You need to speak English. You need to learn how to read and write, all this stuff. And I was just screwed. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. But I didn't want to go back. So I said, fuck it, I'll start working, whatever it is. And what I did is I eventually made sure I had no friends who spoke English. Nobody who speaks Spanish I was surround myself with, because that was my way I was going to learn. And not that I was being like, oh, I don't want to hang out with Latin people, but that was the way that I was going to survive. And eventually I got a job. My first job was at McDonald's, and I ended up having like 3 different jobs. I remember then ended up finding a place where I could live by myself. And I literally would go to dumpsters. I got an apartment, and I would go to dumpsters to get clothes. I found the TV, and little by little, I literally built my apartment. So it was very gratifying to be able to do that. And one of my jobs was extremely far, but I realized that if I took the bus, that back then was like $1 a day, I had to go take the bus besides the other jobs that I would walk. So I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to be too much money. It's like $30 a month if I have to work every day and I have to go. So I bought roller skates. Of course.
Who wouldn't buy roller skates, right?
Roller skates, of course. And what a stupid idea. In Florida, where it rains half of the fucking time, Of course, I didn't realize that was going to be a problem, but I would rollerblade for hours, going back in the middle of the night, coming back. And that's the way I started saving money to be able to survive. And And yeah, pretty much after that, Jesus. After that, I had a cousin who lived in New York, and there was.
Can I ask you one question? I got this because this is so great. Because I didn't know some of this. I didn't know it. So you have a twin, Carol.
Knockin Doorz Down by Carlos Vieira. Now available wherever you get audiobooks.
I wasn't done partying, and I didn't want the binge to end. I think I knew that when I finally got home, I'd have to face what I had done, and I wasn't ready to do that. Being responsible for my actions wasn't something I was looking forward to. I had abandoned my wife and baby, my family, and my business. I wanted to avoid the shame of returning to what I had left behind. Even though I was not yet going home, I wasn't sure I had enough resources to continue the binge.
Click the link in the podcast description to find out more.
Yes.
Where was Carol at this time? And the second question I want to ask you is, so how did you, all right, because you gotta unpack this a little bit. It's so great. Mm-hmm. You have a twin sister, you move here with nothing, right? Thank God you have your visa, because without a visa you'd be screwed. But lucky, yeah, right? You're shopping out of dumpsters, incredible, right? You're rollerblading, so amazing that you're rollerblading back and forth. Where is Carol? And secondly, when you're doing that, how are you learning English?
Oh, okay. So to answer the first question, regarding Carol, honestly, it's very weird because I don't remember her in my childhood, neither remember her in those times of my life. And even if I did remember, I think it's very personal for her own story, and I don't speak for others. So I could, but honestly, I really don't remember her during my life. It's very.
You think it's trauma? Is that trauma?
No, it's more like focus. For me, it has nothing to do with trauma. It's more focused to the only thing I had control over was me, and not depend on what anybody else is. So I had to focus on what I could do versus focus on what she's doing. Not for anything, she's a fuck.
Where did you move to? So then from then you learn English and you moved to New York, or how'd you get to New York?
Well,
because I met you in 1997.
Yeah, that was way earlier before that. I'm talking about when I was 15. So how I learned how to speak English was I would go every day there was a mall maybe like 10 blocks away. So I would literally go to the mall every day, and whatever I was able to afford was a pizza and a Diet Coke. So I would literally ask this only people who look like American, I will ask, and they would tell me what, and I would try to answer the questions and kind of and literally watching TV and listening to music, I will learn words that way. So that's English.
That's where she learned the phrase "trick ass bitches."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I want to kind of jump back though, because Mike, I think you were onto a point here, and I'm asking this to maybe Darlene have you question it. When I'm hearing how Mike has trauma and you say, no, I was focused on self, I'm hearing like almost a constant state of fight or flight.
Yes.
I mean, Mike, aren't you kind of, and to me, that is kind of it's not totally those trauma brain things per se, but that survival mode does have a molding factor.
Yeah. I think, yeah, because I remember when someone asked me when my brother was in the coma and my sister was premature. I remember a lot of it, but then there's part of it that I had to figure it out. Like you had to figure it out. I'm either going to die here and be in pain, or I got to figure this out. So I think you're the same. I think the switch goes off. But here's the thing. We're going to go a little bit all over the place. You write scripts now, right? And they're good. They're good. I mean, I'm your friend, but if they were crap, I would say I'd write them on a napkin and say, "You're adorable, but this is crap." They're really good.
And that's why we love you, Mike, because you'll tell us the truth.
No, it's true. And then you write a book, and that's really good. And then I'm trying to figure out how you process because most people with that kind of adversity and suffering they can't process. So what goes on? Because it's important for people to understand, because you get overwhelmed with massive amounts of trauma. I've known a lot of the stuff, and we'll get into it, but what's the trigger? Is it because someone asked me the other day, is it nature or nurture? But I think it's in the human being, because I think there's two types of people, and there's different personalities, but I think there's the person that walks in and talks themselves into brain cancer and they got a headache. And then there's the person with brain cancer and says, I got a headache. Mm-hmm. And they can switch. And you're one of those people that has the switch. You can just somehow figure it out. Talk about that. What goes on in you? Like, what in your DNA gives you the courage to be authentic?
I think is the fact in every scenario of my life, I don't want to call it that it's trauma that have built me, and that's why I'm in a flight or flight type of mode, because that's giving too much credit to trauma. And trauma, not only trauma, is giving credit to the people who have created the trauma. And I am the type of person who refused to give credit to that. I rather say, you did this, I'll be better, and I'll prove you wrong, versus giving credit to flight or do you know what I mean? It's kind of hard for me. It's my life has been, especially when I've been through so much trauma, is been, I'll prove you wrong. I'll prove you that whatever you have done to me will not change, will not mold me, will not make me any different. And I'll give you a big example. This is how I recognize where it started. I remember that my aunts were very evil, and that's giving them a compliment, just saying evil. They were very evil, and I remember them being very abusive. They would beat me if I was at times when my grandma was there, and when they would come to visit, they would threaten me that if I ate the food, they will beat me up. So I will never eat. And I will be like extremely skinny, because they would bring like all these feast of stuff. And then I would have to sit down in the dining room table and just look and tell my grandma, oh no, I'm not hungry. But I wouldn't tell my grandma what they would do to me, because I felt so bad for her that she would ever realize that her kids were so evil. So I never told my grandma about it, and I just kept it in. And I remember my grandma had went out one night, and I was one of the rebel things that I had to say. And I said, fuck it, I was hungry. I was going to eat, so I ate. And my grandma went out, and then they obviously would beat me up. And one of the things they loved to do was torture me and put me in the wintertime in cold waters, in showers, and cold showers. And I remember I was 6 years old. I know, they're fucking crazy. And I remember I was 6 years old, and I would stand there looking at them and would not share a fucking tear. Because I was no fucking way they were going to get the best of me. And I will stay there, and they will be like, oh, beating me up, and I will not shed a tear. Of course, I cried my ass off after it was done. But that, for me, that was so empowering. It's not to give them the satisfaction to see me broken, not to give them the satisfaction, whatever they were fucking doing to me, that they were going to get the best of me. So that kind of mold me in my life to kind of say, I'm not going to let whoever does something to me change who I was, or change the fact that was going to make me a bad person, or hurt other people, or anything like that. And listen, and there was times that I would tell my mom about it when I would see her, and she's like, oh, you were probably not being good. And there was even trust me, it's actually really good, because I will fucking grab rats like little mice and fucking put them in their bedroom and their fucking purses, and I'll be like, hey, I got you a gift, and fucking a cockroach will. I mean, trust me, that they didn't go without harm. In my own way, I kind of at least got them a little scared. And I remember one time my mom had came out of town, I don't know where she was, and I was literally in the kitchen, and one of her sisters was there visiting, and I was cooking something, and she grabbed it, threw it in the floor, and I looked at her, and I was like, oh, you fucking bitch. Like I said something like I cursed at her. And then, and she went and told my mom and she was crying saying, oh my God, she disrespected me. She's always like this. And I remember going back in where my mom was in her room and she's like, why did you do that? And I said, no, that's not how it went. She told me that about it. And she's like, well, you know, she's old. You need to go apologize. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not going to apologize. I mean, I will rather get beaten. I will rather get tortured a million times before I apologize for something that I did not do. Yes, and insulted her, but that didn't matter. I mean, if you do a 1, I'm going to do a 10. You know, it's not going to go, I'm going to defend myself. So my mom was pissed at me and she's like, oh, no, you don't understand. You have to apologize. Da, 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 da. And then I had to walk and I was crying like that honestly, if anything had any more impact to me was that moment in my life. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not even the torture, not that moment that I had to go say, I'm sorry. So I go down the stairs and this fucking witch is there and I'm sitting there and I'm standing there and I'm looking, she's actually like cleaning her tears and acting a fucking victim and shit. And then I just told her, by the way, I'm only coming here because my mom made me tell you that I have to say I'm sorry, but I'm not fucking sorry. And I just, and then obviously I got punished for that one, but fuck it. At least I said what I had to say. So that's just how I survived.
All right. So, you know, I've been getting to know you for a bit. And guess a year and a half we know each other. Your guys' friendship just now made total sense to me. I've never met two people that have achieved so much after just like, hey, my childhood had some stuff too, but I don't remember much of that now. But like the way you were talked to, Darlene, and Mike, I know the way that you're still talked to that way.
Yeah, I know. People talk to me like I'm the wrong guy.
Yeah,
like, the honey badger don't
get along. That's why Mike and I have been friends for how many years?
90. Well, let's go into that. So basically, I moved to America in end of 96, 97. And 97, 98, I was working at this club called Chaos. Yeah, 97. That's right. And it was funny because the owner of the club, I got a big breakdown there. Tony Theodore, Michael Lawton, David Sauna literally discovered me on the beach. And it was funny because Tony was dating this girl called Carol. And he said, you know, I'm really in. He was trying to pick up this girl, Carol. And anyway, Carol came up. She was dating someone else at the time. And then lo and behold, she said, hey, my sister's coming. Could you take her over to the club? I said, yeah, whatever. And it's like 1,000 people trying to get in. And I thought I was seeing things because Darlene walks up with this girl, Maria. And I'm thinking, I thought Carol was in the back of the club. And I'm like, wait, who are you? She goes, I'm Darlene. I go, Darlene, who? She goes, Carol's twin sister. I go, there's two of you? Like, what is this? This is crazy.
Mike was actually like, oh my God, Carol, you look so much prettier. What have you done to yourself?
I was like, Carol, there was a few adjustments you had to make, and I can't believe you made them in an hour.
Great job.
Oh, shit. Have you dug into the archives of past Knockin Doorz Down podcast episodes? The Knockin Doorz Down podcast archive is available to you for free. Check it out. Here's a snippet from when Charlie Sheen was on the podcast.
AA is not the best place for a famous atheist. I kept looking for that fucking chapter. So yeah, but it's not a one size fits all. Sure. You know, it's like saying that we all think the same, like our brains are built the same. They're just not. Right. Yeah. There's such uniqueness involved.
Check out this episode and so many more in the Knockin Doorz Down archive. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumb up, leave a comment, and share with somebody else that you know will get value out of the Knockin Doorz Down podcast.
But so we became friends, but let's go into this crazy story. So Darlene, you go to Iowa, right? Because you had a fiance at the time. Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. And let's talk. It's crazy. Let's So you go to Iowa to you're engaged, right?
Well, we met before I went to Iowa. That's
Correct.
the first, yeah, that we went before. And then I was getting married in Iowa. I fell in love with this amazing man, Andy, and then he was from Iowa, and we met in Peru because I was living in Peru at the time. So yes, I was living in Peru at the time, and I had came to Miami to get, I know it sounds super weird, but I wanted to get married with jeans and a white shirt and a t-shirt or a little top or a white tank top. Crazy, of course, So I went to Miami, and I was like, okay, I'm going to find something that I still actually have the shirt, believe it or not, that I was going to get married in. Believe it or not, I do. I'm a collector's item, but I have collector shit, but memorabilia. So then we go to Iowa, and we were going to get married in this beautiful rose garden and all of this. And I remember the very ironic part of this is that he had Playboy magazines in his house in Iowa. And I had said to him, if I'm marrying you, you better throw this shit away because this is not happening. And he's like, no, wait a second. And he opens the magazine and he's like, look, they're doing the Millennium Playmate search. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, no, you don't understand. All my friends, and he's a Marine. So like, he's like, oh, my friends say that oh my God, that you should do it. I'm like, no. And he's like, you should. I say, trust me, you could do this. And I'm like, and he literally took some pictures of me, and I still have those pictures to this day that he took for me. And then, and he's like, okay, so we get the phone, we go fill up the paper so we could get married. And we get the phone call that, oh yes, it was September 1st, if I'm not mistaken, that we have a place for you guys to get married the next day. We're like, awesome. Okay. So he's obviously, I'm like, imagine me in Iowa. Okay. I'm like an alien who showed up in Iowa. It was like the funniest thing in the world. I'm like wearing my heels on, super like, so not Iowa. And then, I go to, we're planning, he's making the phone calls and all that stuff. And he's like, okay, great. we have planned, that we were going to meet his friends at a bar that night. So he's like, you know what? I'm kind of hungry. Why we don't go to get some pizza and some food and all that stuff. There's more in deep into it, like something really good, but it's too long. But anyways, so then we go to we're driving, and it literally, they had told us the next day we were going to get married the next day at 2:00. I don't remember exactly the time. And he looks at the time and he's like, hey, look. And he's like, in exactly 24 hours, I'll get to call you my wife. And then we get into a car accident, and he didn't survive. And I did survive, and I barely survived. So they had to, long story, but they just had to fly me to a different state. And then that was the end of that one. Awesome.
And then
oh yeah, that's where you come. That's where you come. So I had 3 months of recuperation. I think I had 2.5 in Iowa recuperating because I had broken my pelvis in 3 pieces. I had concussion, collapsed lung, and a bunch of internal stuff, and broken hand, and all the stuff that comes with it. And then they transfer me a month, 2 months later, whatever, to Florida, where I was recuperating. They were waiting for me to be stable enough so I could have surgery, because so I could learn how to walk again. And then, for some fucking miracle, I never needed surgery, and I just recuperated a month in there. And then here I come hopping along months later, and then I meet Mr. Mike again. My crutches and stuff.
She's like her sister goes, I go, what happened to your sister? She get married? She goes, no, it's bad. I go, how bad? She's like, the guy died and she's got in a bad accident. I'm like, what are you talking about? So there was I can't remember the place. It was on Ocean Drive. It was horrible. It was a bar. It was really bad. What was it called? Oh my God. I used to sell these big Slurpee drinks. And your sister
Fat Tuesdays.
That's it. And she goes, let's go to Fat Tuesdays. I was like, and do what? She's like, well, it's loud and my sister will have fun. So Carol said, I'll meet her there, and dropped her off, and she was kind of getting by. And I'm like, oh my God, you poor thing. And then we clicked. We just started chatting and being friends. And then it was funny because I moved to New York in 98. And you came up to New York when?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, wait, when Carol gave birth. No, that was way after, though.
Because when I was working at this club called Cohost, then and you were dating Mike Piazza.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got the millennial things. 2000. Well, 98, I was running this hot club. Yeah. And then she was dating Mike Piazza. And she was dating Mike Piazza at the time where the Yankees and the Mets were playing. And it was really big time. And she was at the millennial twin. And they did the Playboy event at the club. And Hugh Hefner came in. It was pretty cool stuff. It was like, wow, this is pretty serious for a girl that was like
hopping along in Miami
Beach. Disabled. She can't even speak, and now she's on the
asshole.
I'm thinking more about the girl
that said you're the one that said she couldn't speak when you came to the country. I ate out of the bin, not me. You said that.
Yeah, but I already was speaking English, asshole, at that time. I already actually
English. You learned English off songs the other people you could have said.
That's why she says, bitch better have my money. Come on.
No, hey, listen, don't forget that at 18 years old, I actually moved to New York because I heard that when you make, obviously I'm like the hopeless romantic dreamer, fucking my life, I just want everything to be like no fucking way. And my cousin had told me, hey, do you know that if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere? And I was 18 years old. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to New York. I'm going to make it, So obviously it was not going to be that easy. And at this time, I didn't know how to speak English, but I didn't know how to write or read. I was working in a bar literally a block away from the World Trade Center where these beautiful men in suits would come out and stuff like that. But I was just 18, so I couldn't serve liquor. So I was the bartender server, whatever they call it.
Bar back.
No. They have a server that stands in the service station that before the bartender. Bartender.
Yes, one of those things. So then wow. One of the brokers from the floor, and my cousin was like, obviously my cousin Tanya is gorgeous, beautiful, and but she didn't have her papers then, but somebody had offered her a job in the as an assistant broker for this whole firm. And then she's like, no, I can't do it. And she's like, hey, you got papers. Why don't you go do it? I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? I don't even know how to read and write. What am I going to, what's a broker? What's a trade? And she's like, I'm like, no, trust me. You should just go try it. And I was like, fuck it. Why not? So I go.
Bartending or trading?
No, trading. Like assistant, yes, in commodities.
I thought you're talking about bartending. Oh, okay.
No. Like they offer her a job, to do an assistant broker and whatever. So then I'm like, oh, fuck it, I'll try it. So here I go, I'm like thinking, I don't even know what the hell's a trade or what is anything. So I'm walking in and I walk into the floor. You know how in the movie Coming to America, is it Coming to America? Where they go to that's the exact place I walk into, right? So I walk into, and they're like the most beautiful men with suits, and I'm like, Jesus, I just fucking landed in heaven. I need this place, And then so I had this interview with a guy who actually ended up being my boss. And in the interview, he's telling me all the stuff that I'm supposed to do, and I have to take a class or some whatever. And I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no fucking idea I've never seen a computer in my life or anything. So I was just like, oh, fuck it. I say, well, I tell him, it's like, do you mind if I'll come in here every day for free? And, and I can follow people and see what they're doing. Shit, I got the job 2 months later. 2 months later, following people, and I knew exactly what I was doing. And I literally ended up managing every one of my company's brokers' trades till I was 21. Then bam, boom. How about that for you? Well, fucking speaking.
I'm thinking more about the girl that was herding cows off of a hill.
Yeah.
You know?
But first of all, you're the one that said about you came here and you were learning English off bad hip hop songs and 80s music. So, all right. So let's fast.
And you're like, Chicago.
Right. Okay.
That's a good song.
So let's fast forward a second. Can we
So wait, hold on.
Much like go.
Mike, I want to stop this because again, it's got me a little choked up hearing about your fiance that passed. Like I'm still sorry. Like, yeah. But the interesting thing that occurred there was he sent off the photos. I'm guessing it was maybe Polaroids then to Playboy. When does that come into play then?
Oh, well, I'm not that old for Polaroids, okay? We were having films at that time, like cameras.
There was still Polaroids. No, because I did Polaroids back in 97.
Yeah.
There was still Polaroids. They used to do stuff on Polaroids.
Well, we were doing the regular camera, with the film and all that.
I know, but they still did small Polaroids.
Whatever.
Castings. They were doing Polaroids in castings. They did.
Yes.
Anyway, go, Jason.
So that actually didn't come around until after my accident. The Playboy was doing the worldwide search for the Millennium Playmate, and the last place where they had the end of the search was in Miami, and it was in Chaos. In my sister's nightclub.
Hold on, but did you do it as twins, or did we originally? Was that his idea to do it as twins, or as twins, or not?
No, he didn't even know that I had a sister. Like, it was never. Again, it's like I lived in Peru. Carol lived in Florida, so it was like had nothing to do. It was completely crazy how weird things had happened.
Wow.
The last place where this search was in Florida, and it was in my sister's nightclub. And somebody from Playboy, because they were doing the big finale, whatever, and somebody in Playboy looked at my sister and says, like, "Hey, have you done the trial, for the search?" And my sister, being what she is, how she is, she's like, I'm not going to do a line with 500 whatever woman. And then this guy goes like, well, what if I get you a one-on-one with the senior editor of Playboy? And she said, yeah. But at that time I was still in the hospital and I was still learning how to walk. So when that happened, I was already out of the hospital. I was just learning how to walk and just getting myself just there, but I was all fucked up, obviously. And then, she went to the meeting with Marilyn Growalski, and then when my sister walked into the meeting, the Marilyn said, "Oh my God, I'm going to make you rich and famous." And then she's like, "Oh, by the way, I happen to have an identical twin sister," and she fucking lost it. So they waited literally a year for me to recuperate, so I could be able to shoot.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's supposed to be my friend, huh?
Yeah, we didn't get to that details. I didn't know it was a year. I thought you just kind of like you put on a fake leg and there you go.
No, actually, because of the accident,
hip of a 22-year-old. That's all right. They give you a new hip and you're off to go.
I didn't need a new hip.
I know, I'm joking. All right, so can we talk about the last few months, or is it too deep? Like any kind of it's up to you.
Go for it. I mean, fuck, might as well.
Well,
I'm just asking. It's like right now you're going through some stuff, right? But it's up to you. All right. So, without getting into,
you're gonna fucking cut it out. I don't want my makeup to get all fucked up.
That's all right. No. Well, like since COVID's been pretty rough.
Yes.
You had a COVID a couple of times. You nearly died during COVID. I remember actually getting a voicemail from you. And it was like, oh my God, that was when COVID hit. And then your husband got it really bad. And then unfortunately, just recently, he passed. And now you're at this point, you're at this crossroads that you've got to reinvent yourself, right? It's like two losses at such a young age. And Now you got to use these setbacks as step forwards, right?
Yes. What's the question though?
Well, the question is, how are you getting up and getting through it?
Fuck. How I have this one is a tough one. This one's a really tough one because it's I invested a lot of time in my family, and my family is, as I was trying at some point to start my career as a writer, is when all this COVID thing happened. And at that time, my husband was dealing with some problems, and he was getting out of rehab. And then at that time, I had a beautiful 3 months of getting the real him, and then COVID hit, and he literally was dying on me almost every month. He was dying on me from COVID. His lungs turned into crystal. It affected him in every way, shape, and form. It was very debilitating for him because he never was able to be the same man that his potential, that what he was. In the meantime, he couldn't work anymore. He at that time we were very well economically, and we just had to the way to survive was starting to sell our properties and whatever we could. And I, unfortunately, at the time, in the first year, 2 years of since COVID happened, I couldn't work because I was ill as well. I barely was able to get out of bed. Everything in my body burned. It was like my body was on fire. That's where actually the benefit of that I was so much in bed that I learned how to draw because I had nothing else to do. And unfortunately, my motivation to write wasn't not there because I had like the memory fog. It just was it was really bad. And I also had lost, I was like 100 pounds. I had lost so much weight. I couldn't eat. It was affecting me in every way. And I'm a long hauler. They still haven't found, but I think they call it POPs or whatever. I do have heart issues. That I literally, maybe monthly, I go to the hospital, an emergency room. I was just there maybe like 2 weeks ago because my heart goes from, I could be sitting down and it goes to like 150 doing nothing. And it has gotten almost to 200. So if for a long, the thing that I have to do is if it goes for too long, I have to immediately go to the ER and to tell me again, like, sorry, we don't know what's wrong with you. I have a heart monitors. I have every fucking thing you can imagine, every doctor you can imagine. Nobody could give me a diagnosis. They just pretty much, I had one time gone there and I was crying so much because I was so tired of being in hospitals that the doctor was crying and said, I'm so sorry. I can't do anything for you. I'm so sorry. I know it's not fair. We don't understand this. We don't know why this is happening. They literally would look at my heart and they'd be like, how is it that you've been here for like 45 minutes and your heart rate is still high and you're not doing anything? So it between me trying to still try to deal with my issues, my priority was my husband because he was really bad. Like he really, really was really bad. And at the end of the day, it got the best of him. He just, he fell again and unfortunately, I understand this because I know what it is to feel depressed and to lose everything in life. And it's just been, it was worse for him because he was a man, he was a provider, he was the head of the family. And unfortunately, he just not too long ago, he just gave up. And that's been tough because the fact that trying to get him, I'm gonna fucking cry. The fight to trying to save him was one of my most important things that I'd been trying to do for many years. And I couldn't save him because obviously, it wasn't even in his own. I don't blame him because life is extremely hard, and I don't want to judge what he did because I don't also want to say what he did was something that, oh my God, what a bravery. But I admire the fact that he chose his way and he did it his way. And I honor that even though that I couldn't give him, I couldn't make him stay here, but the peace that I find in my heart, knowing that he's no longer in pain. That for me is worth more than anything, because one way or the other, I know that I'm going to survive. I know that I'm going to be okay. I mean, fuck, there has to be a lesson on this one. I still don't understand which one is the lesson. And I say, I'm like, all right, like, I mean, you better fucking give me a good reason for this shit, because God damn it, it's like, oh my God. But, you know, if I do know that he's better. And that means more the world to me than having him here suffering. So that's the only way I kind of get through it, just knowing that he's better right now. And I mean, God, who wants to see somebody suffering all the time, regardless of what it is? And it's selfish to want to keep him here when they just can't handle their pain anymore. So I get it. And that's how I just survive every day, just knowing that he's not having pain anymore.
I'm sorry, I had to, like, I didn't know if you wanted to go there, but it's just, you're brave and so courageous and so talented, and you have so much to give, and so many people are going to admire your strength and be inspired by your strength and motivated by your story and your strength. You know what I mean? And as I said, I never force you to, like, we're best friends. Like, you know what I mean? You tell me unconditionally anything. So eventually
ends up being a story in my life. And
you know what?
As weird as that sounds, for me, the more I talk about it, the more it sits in. And because there are, I mean, you know, Mike, there are days that we were just talking about that. I think it was today or yesterday, that I felt always like, okay, I'm a special person. I feel like I'm a good person. I know I'm a good person. I know that one of my worst qualities is I'm too empathetic and I gave too much, and I always sacrifice myself because I think I could handle it. Because I think that I am strong enough to handle it, that I could give more of me because somebody else can't. And I thought that because I was that way, I was special. So when I found my husband, I was like, I literally threw myself on top of him, and I figured if I hug him enough, if I love him enough, if I say enough, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back. And I still, even that moment, and I go days that I'm like, wait, if I cry enough, if I pray enough, I will give my soul, whatever it is, to get him back, to make him even though that I know he was in pain, I felt that I could help. I felt that I could help him, and I felt that I could save him somehow. So realizing that I, not that I'm not special, and not that I'm not I can achieve it, but it sits in your heart a reality that this is really life.
Yeah.
This is fucking life, and there's no fucking way of turning back such pain like this. I can't change the past. And for me is that I couldn't change his past. I couldn't change his pain. And in every day that I talk about it, every day that I see it, it sits a little bit deeper inside my heart. And it does give me a little bit of kind of like, all right, Darlene, maybe today you don't need to cry as much. Maybe today you don't need to suffer as much, because you know what? Guess what? Just like the next day, like the day before, you did cry. As he's not coming back, there's no miracles going to happen. You know, this type of miracle can't happen, unfortunately, because once they're gone, they're gone. And I can't create a miracle. I could create give as much as I can to save someone or do something, but I can make miracles. And no matter how fucking great I think I am, like I just can't do it. I just do the best I can, and that's I guess that's gonna have to be fulfilling enough for me to move on.
How you want to wrap it up, Jay? You have one last question?
No, we're gonna jump into random questions. What did you forget? How did I do? I turned into fun now. I can't. I want to give you a hug. When I meet you, I know the first thing I'm gonna do is just give you the biggest hug. I love you. You're beautiful inside and out.
Well, can you put a filter next time if you love me this much? Mask
he does. He does these great filter hugs.
Oh. Fuck the hug. Put filter in my face, dude. I got wrinkles.
I got wrinkles. What do you want?
Hey, you're a guy. It doesn't matter.
Oh, Lord.
Go, Jay.
All right. So we're going to end up, we're going to finish this up with fun random questions. So these are just so we can have a laugh to lighten it up. And then I'm going to leave you with the final thoughts. So you're going to get the floor for about, a minute or so, 30 seconds, whatever you want to lend. But all right, here we go. What are pet peeves you have? Like little things that irk you, annoy you?
Oh, fuck. The bed not being done the second I wake up.
Really?
Oh my God! Yes. That is my per peak. I just can't. I can't. And people who whine for no fucking reason. Like oh my God! Like, oh my God! I just fucking broke up with my boyfriend. I'm like, dude, really? Like that's your fucking problem? Like no.
Wrong audience. Wrong audience.
I'm broke. Bitch, stop fucking buying shit you don't need.
Yeah, right.
Like it's very simple. Amazing. You want me to do your freaking your budget? Like things like that. Amazing.
Yeah, I picked up on you earlier when you were talking about it. It's like you definitely don't live with a victim mentality at all.
But you know what? I used to. So I'm not gonna even say that I didn't. I used to. In I think in some aspects of my life, and I want to say even in my marriage, I did because when I'm being 100% honest because this is one of the things that if I have to look back, I would change. I would example right in my marriage. I learned one thing amazing about my husband that he taught me, and it stays with me forever. I would, when he will have a problem or whatever we will be talking about, I will be like, yeah, but I went through worse. And look at me, whatever. And then one thing that he said to me that stayed always and will always stay to me is like, not because your pain looks worse doesn't mean that my pain is any different.
Yeah.
Because we compare pain. Because everybody feels different. Like I could just go and slap Mike and he could be like, that's the worst thing that ever happened to his life, but that's his pain. Doesn't mean that his slap is any worse than mine.
Yeah.
Meet people where they're at and accept them for who they are. Very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's something people would be surprised to learn about you? A special hobby, talent, interest? I don't know. Are you a Star Trek fan? Like, what would they be surprised to find out?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. Well, I literally know how to do everything. And I'm not saying it I know how to sew. I know how to draw. And I literally learned that on my own, watching fucking videos and stuff like that. Like I do a lot of everything. I don't think there's one thing I cannot do.
You a fisherman? Can you fish?
I can fish. Fuck it. Give me a pole. I'll fish. I'll learn. I'll Google that shit and I'll learn it. Fish.
The old GTS, Google that shit.
So good. So good.
What is your go-to song?
Oh my God.
For what? Wait a second. Go-to song for what? For motivation? For like,
yeah, let's do that.
Times.
Like, let's say, since you know how to do everything, and let's say somehow you got in like the boxing ring, what would be your
motivation?
song?
Motivation. Yeah, let's not go darkness right now. Not melancholy.
No, but I will say this. There is this song that I've been listening to maybe 10 times a day. Okay. And ever since my husband had passed away, and it's by Anees. That's his name, and is Leave Me. And it talks
Anees.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I
don't want to freaking spell or pronounce that shit wrong because it could sound English or something. So
anus, like it's like what are you listening to?
Mike, it's pronounced anus.
Anus.
I'm being a douche. Sorry.
No.
Okay. So leave me.
Leave me. And it talks I originally started listening to it because it reminded me of my husband, what he would probably say to me. But then it has turned down into me saying it to him, and kind of it takes accountability of things about life. And it could just kind of go everywhere. Like you could really apply it to everything about like taking responsibility, ownership about what you have done to others for others to do however they react, like either if it's for work or anything, like I really apply it to everything. So that song, I listened to it honestly, even before in the morning in the podcast, before I was up, I listened to it like 10 times and I think about it and I really go like, okay, what in my life do I need to do to kind of never make somebody feel like, I'm not leaving you because I don't love you. I'm leaving because I think you deserve better. So I apply it to absolutely everything. It's kind of weird, but in my way, that fucking works.
I love it. No, it's not weird. Yeah. It's good.
No,
go Jay.
Great. It's perfect. All right, one more. Oh, this is good. I mean, you're writing a ton. It's coming out. Book about you, but let's say they license a TV show or a movie about you. Who would you want to play you?
God, that's great because you can't copy perfection. So, you know what? It's not so much what somebody will have to look. I will have to really dig into the potential of being able to transfer the meaning of every single emotion aspect of it because anybody could probably play me, I mean, well, not everybody, but what I'm saying is that it will have to be somebody who probably most likely had to been through a lot of stuff to be able to portray that type of character. And that crazy like me.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mike, you've done acting training. I've done it. I mean, how much was it taught to draw from our lives?
But who would play? She's not the right look, but the kind of actress that would do you well. The girl that played in Monster, Charlize
Theron.
Yeah, because she has such a great depth of I'm saying not physical, but I'm saying she knows how to transform. You need to find some, you know what I'm saying? Or like, it's you look at Heath Ledger. There's no way anyone expected him to play such a good Joker. You need someone that can go into the subconscious and one of my two of my favorite actors. Well, there's three, but my two favorites are Christian Bale. I love Christian Bale because you lose Christian Bale, and obviously Daniel Day-Lewis. Because Daniel Day-Lewis, you never see Daniel Day-Lewis. You just see the character. And I remember when I was watching, a friend of mine was involved in the movie The Fighter, and he said, did you see it? I said, I haven't seen it yet. So when I watched it, 20 minutes in, I knew who Mark Wahlberg was, and he can act, but he's not a character actor. I didn't know it was Christian Bale. And I was like, wait, and I had to stop it and then go and look at the guy on YouTube who was the actual brother. And I was like, oh my God, like this is Dickie, this is him. So you would have to find a young character actor that could really transcend, and whether they've gone through the trauma or not, as long as they understand the trauma.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? As long as they understand how to, like you said, everyone, a slap in the face to in my face may be nothing, but a slap in your face may be something. As long as they can understand on a subconscious level the effects of what your past has done to you and your motivation, I think, it'd be a great character. Yeah. But great questions, Jay.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I'm all right at what I do. You know, I'm your basic household name.
Good questions. Good questions. I like that. So good.
Yeah. I mean, we got so much. Darlene, thank you for doing this. Mike, thanks for co-hosting. We've been talking about this perfect scenario to do this. I mean, we've got so much that we could dig into. We'll have to do a part 2 down the line. I mean, we have a big gap in time there. We didn't even get into motherhood and all this stuff. So
yeah, we'll definitely do a part 2 because there's other stuff going on right now that this will spin off into some really good stuff. It's really good. But we're friends since 1997. So I just appreciate you taking the time and just being honest. It's hard. This stuff is difficult. And thank you for just being honest and vulnerable, because I know it sucks, but what I'm gonna leave you guys with this. So Epictetus, people listen to Epictetus. He was a great philosopher, and what people don't realize is that Epictetus was banished. He was a slave, and his master allowed him to learn Stoicism. And he was beaten so bad that he was paralyzed and could barely walk. And then I think it was, I don't know the exact date, but it was like, I think it was 80 AD. They banished all philosophy from Greece at the time. So he went and lived in the mountains. He never wrote anything down, Epictetus, and he would do these lectures. Had a little school in Rome, and his student would come and watch him, and then write down. And they came up with 8 books, which they translated into 4. And what people don't realize is that he talks about resilience and talks about being this great character. And the other morning, I was like, I was struggling with sciatic pain and stomach issues and just struggling, I was just in my own head, And I thought, I'm listening to this guy and I'm like, wait, everyone has made money off this guy's words and written books that he never published. He just spoke and he had the most miserable life, but he didn't look at it as miserable. Mm-hmm. And General Stockdale was a famous general that got in a situation and he was coming down into Vietnam territory. And he had discourses, Epictetus' book, and he's like, we're in for it. And he was a prisoner of war for 8 years. Mm. And he read Epictetus' books. And he said to everyone, it's as good, this could be as good as it's going to get. And when they interviewed Stockdale afterwards, they asked Stockdale this incredible thing. And they said, you must have been really optimistic and positive, every day. And he said, no, it doesn't work like that. When you're faced with extreme trauma and adversity at this level, and you're in a prisoner of war camp, or you're like Viktor Frankl, who went through 4 concentration camps when Hitler, in Auschwitz. He says, it's not about that, because if you're too optimistic and too positive, what happens is you tell yourself, I'm going to get out by Christmas. I'm going to get out by Christmas. And Christmas comes, you don't get out, you lose hope. Mm. The key is you have faith, you'll get through the moments. Because all we have in reality is this podcast in the moment. Mm-hmm. So the key to life is just getting through this moment. Mm-hmm. That's it. And when you listen to the great philosophers and all these guys, they didn't get famous or try to get famous from the work they did. All they did is they were able to stay in the moment. And then we discovered their works later. And we made them famous. Mm-hmm. So as long as we get through this moment on this podcast today, and we're okay right now, that's all that matters.
Amen, sister.
Okay? That's all we have to do.
That is.
Get through today, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Darlene, thank you for trusting me too for this platform to be so vulnerable. I'm honored. I appreciate it, and I so look forward to getting to know you more. I enjoy the hell out of you, so it's nice to have this new friendship. I love you already.
Oh, thank you. Love you too, honey. I appreciate that.
It's going to look really good. It's going to look really good. And
just don't forget the fucking filters, for the love of Christ.
All right.
We're going to edit the whole
Hold on. Let me do my
podcast.
sign off and then you guys can bitch. On that note, keep knocking doors down, people.